before I get to the actual review of this book here, a short disclaimer. So, no one's paying me to do this review and no one has asked me to do it either. I also bought this book with my own money. I backed it back when it was available in Indiegogo. As for my background in HEMA, I teach and train German longsword. So, from that point of view, I have an interest in this specific manuscript. So what actually is an facsimile? The word itself basically means an exact copy. Generally it is used to describe an exact copy of a historical book or a manuscript, such as in this case, or some other historical item. Though the description is a bit fluid, as for an example, the fax machine actually gets its name from the word facsimile. So I said an exact copy, but how exact does this exact actually mean? Well, in this case, for example, the paper only simulates the original historical paper. It's not the exact type of the historical paper used in the original manuscript, so this is not in that sense a 100% exact copy. There are also other aspects of this which are not an 100% exact copy of the original, but the idea is that this is as close to the original as it's feasible. But I'll be talking more about this a bit later in this review. So let's take a bit closer look on this book and its specs. Back when this was in Indiegogo for the first time, I paid $180 for it. I think now it runs for $250. This facsimile is printed on a cotton rag paper to simulate the original historical paper. So as said, this is not in that sense a 100% accurate replica of the original. This is also bound in tan pigskin. However, the original manuscript is actually bound in parchment. The original also has metal corner pieces, so again, this is not an actual 100% accurate representation of the original. After the original Indiegogo campaign finished, an actual parchment-bound version of this facsimile actually became available, so there was an option for that, though only after the original Indiegogo. This also has 9mm thick cover boards, so those are quite a lot thicker than you'd have on a modern book. The covers also have blind tooling. The facsimile I have here is bound using a typical 15th century quire structure, though this is not the structure of the original book. However, there is an possibility to order a facsimile with the quire structure of the actual manuscript this is based on. I have the link to the Indiegogo profile which offers these books in the description, so you can actually go and see what projects they have available now as you're watching this video, and if those projects actually offer this specific facsimile as an option. So, as said, this is a facsimile based on a historical manuscript. But what is that manuscript about? So the original manuscript is a German fencing manual from 1459. It was commissioned by Hans Talhofer. The original manuscript is currently held in, and sorry, I'm probably going to butcher the name, in Det Kongelige Bibliotek in København in Denmark. So this facsimile is produced by HEMA Bookshelves, and more specifically by Michael Chidester, and he's also the man behind the Victor Now webpage. So I'll have the Victor Now link down in the description, so you can actually go and see what this facsimile or the original manuscript contains. But I'll give you a short description of the contents right now. The manuscript starts with a written portion, and most notably it has the Johannes Lichtenauer's Zettel and the belly fortis. The majority of the manuscript is full-page illustrations with little to no text, and it has a bit of everything, and I really mean it. It has illustrations from weapons and siege equipment to what I think is a diving suit. Also on the fighting manual side, it has depictions of almost everything. There is wrestling, dagger, pole arms, mixed weapons, armored fighting, mounted fencing, and so on and so on. The one part pretty much everyone seems to have heard of is the duel between a man and a woman. But again, just go on the Victor Nemo page and see for yourself. It makes no sense that I would go through all the contents of this book here. It's really not the idea of this review. So the book itself, or the facsimile, it is really well made. The covers are beautiful, the blind tooling is very well made, the illustrations are gorgeous, the scans which this is printed from are really high quality, and also the print quality is extremely nice. The book feels really nice in hand because of the thicker than normal paper and the very thick cover boards. It is actually quite hefty. Because of this, the book has a presence to it which your normal modern books really don't have. Also, the skin on the covers and the paper itself have a really nice feel to them. The leather is high quality, so it feels nice in hand, and also the paper has an interesting texture which you don't find on modern books, and I personally really like it. All in all, this book is really high quality, and because how different it is from modern books, it is a joy to flip through and take a look what's inside. So, what is a facsimile like this actually intended for? I personally see this as a collector's piece. This is a limited run, expensive book which really doesn't have like a, let's say, a specific use for your average person. However, I really don't think this is the main use or the intended use for this facsimile. That's just how I see it. What I really think is the main purpose of this book, and I think also the HEMA Bookshelf states it as such, is to bring out the age in HEMA. That is the historical part in historical European martial arts. This allows your average person to actually touch and feel the manuscripts from which the art we are training comes from. As the original manuscripts are, well, rather limited in number and also quite destructible if a lot of people went and actually handled them, this is a way for a large amount of people to actually have some kind of a similar experience to handling those originals. I also think that this book actually does that pretty well. It gives you an tangible feel of an historical piece, and I think that is quite an valuable experience as someone who is interested in the historic part of HEMA. What I don't see this being is a valuable part of your HEMA training. And when I now say HEMA training, I mean like the physical activity of learning the historical art of fencing. This doesn't really tell you anything you wouldn't be able to already find online for free and also translate it to English so you can actually, well, understand it. This is written in, I think, High Middle German, and it's also written using a, well, you'll see in the pictures, but it's not really a modern typeface, so just reading is difficult, let alone understanding what is said. As such, I don't really think this is meant to make you a better HEMAist in the sense of fencing or practicing the art, but it can give you a valuable look into the historical aspect of our hobby. And so then for the conclusions. All in all, this is, in my opinion, a great facsimile of a very important historical manuscript. For the majority of people, I think this is historically authentic enough, and probably even more so. However, if you are extremely pedantic with the historical accuracy of your facsimiles, this might not be for you. And don't take that as an insult to the facsimile itself or the people who don't think this is historically accurate enough. As I just said, I think that for most people, and that is a great majority of people actually, this is historically accurate enough. And at least as far as I'm aware, there is nothing better than this for this specific manuscript outside the original, and well, most people don't have access to that. I also think that making this more historically accurate would make no difference for most people, and I think it also would skyrocket the price, and that would make this unavailable for the majority of people. However, I do understand those people who would rather pay more for a 100% accurate copy of the original. After all the information in this facsimile is already available online for free. And if you really want a 100% accurate copy of the manuscript, this is not that. So having this compared to not having anything does not make any difference for those people. They already have the information, and this doesn't actually give them a perfect copy. So, is this worth the asking price? And I'm now going to talk about the current asking price, not what I paid for it. Well, I think that was already almost 2 years ago. Well, anyways. Yes, I think it is. From the production view, so I'm not talking about the contents of the book, it is well worth the price. Just the quality of the print, the scans, all the materials, that being the paper, the covers, those being the skin on the cover, the cover boards, and all the manual labor this has taken, the blind tooling, the binding, and so on. This is very worth the asking price. That being said, should you actually get one of these if they are still available? Maybe. As already said, this isn't really for HEMA training, so if you are just thinking about getting a better fencer, this should be really at the bottom of your shopping list. If you are either already interested in the history part of HEMA or want to have a full view of HEMA, including the history part, I think this is invaluable. This can give you something which the online version really can't. It gives you the tactile feeling of handling a historical manuscript, even though this is not a 100% accurate facsimile. For whom I think this is actually the best purchase is HEMA clubs. If you can, as a club, buy one of these, it allows your students to actually get a hold of one and handle it and read it and see what the manuscript is all about without spending the money. And as said, these are limited run items, so it is not possible for every single HEMA student in the world to actually buy one. As a collectible piece, I can really appreciate this facsimile. Even if you are not really interested in the German fencing systems or the contents of the Talhofer manual, as a collectible piece, this is something really great. If you are like me and you really wouldn't even think about getting an iReader because you just enjoy how books feel and enjoy the process of reading them in a physical form instead of from a digital screen, this can be a really great purchase for you just because how awesome I think this is in the physical sense. If you are a collector of like historical reproductions, it depends on how pedantic you are. For me, this is easily enough. But if you really want to go for the 100% authentic facsimile, this might not be for you. Though there is a better or more accurate version available, at least still as I'm shooting this. So that has the parchment covers of the original, and you can buy the corner covers yourself. Though at that point, again, those probably are not 100% authentic unless you get them commissioned. So that was my review of the Talhofer facsimile. I highly recommend that you go and take a look at the current projects of HEMA Bookshelf, as I think the job they are doing is rather valuable. And again, I have no association with them whatsoever, so this is just my personal recommendation. If you own one of the HEMA Bookshelf facsimiles or some other HEMA facsimiles, please go down in the comment section and tell me about your experiences with them. Also, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See ya next time.